All right, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, hello. Welcome everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. My name is Derek Schultz. I'm an account executive here at Level, and again, we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us for this next 45 minutes or so. I'm super excited. This is our first ever webinar, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more down the road. So, before we dive in, I'll just quickly walk you all through today's agenda. We'll start with a brief introduction to Level, give you some insights into who we are and how we help customers. And next, I'll let Jacob cover exactly how we build and structure monitors and Level from scratch. So once we have everything set up, we'll show you how we can automatically remediate these alerts and what we can do to apply these monitors to your endpoints in bulk. So we'll just use the last 15 minutes for a Q&A session. So feel free to send your questions in the that Q&A chat below, and we'll get those all addressed at the end. So I understand a lot of you are currently customers, but for those of you who may not be familiar with us, Level's been around for about 5 years, and over the years we've grown from a pretty basic remote control tool to where we are today. And our mission is not only to simplify and streamline IT operations, but also lower the barrier of entry for those of you who are looking to implement robust automation and monitoring strategies. So with that in mind, again, really excited to share today's content with you, whether you're a longtime client, just exploring what we have to offer, or just looking to learn something new. We really do hope that today's webinar gives you some new insights and helps you achieve some goals you have for your IT infrastructure. So we'll get started. I'll hand things over to our CEO, Jacob, and he'll take us through some best practices on what we can do to optimize your endpoint monitoring. So we'll hand it off to Jacob.
All right, thanks, Derek. Let me start with just getting my, whoops. Let me start with sharing my screen here. Just this window. All right, can everybody see my screen? Derek, Jason?
Good.
All right, hello everyone. I'm super excited today to walk you through how to build out your own monitoring plan for your endpoints. And before you start diving in and creating policies, it's really important to consider what you actually want to monitor. Think about all of your monitoring goals up front and how you might want to structure these policies to avoid duplication and make everything more reusable. So today, like Derek said, we're going to be creating policies from scratch. This is a fresh account, and we'll cover monitoring security aspects, tailoring these policies for servers and workstations, as well as creating policies specific for certain applications or services. So by the end of this, you'll have a solid understanding of how to craft a comprehensive monitoring policy for your company. So if you're new to Level, I'll explain things as we go along, but keep in mind this isn't a full demo. We're going to be really focusing exclusively on monitoring today. So this is a fresh account. We just have a few Windows, Mac, and Linux endpoints installed. I don't have any tags on these devices. There's no monitors yet. There's no policies. Absolutely fresh account here. The only prep that I've done is I just created a few tags that we'll use today as we go through here. I'll pause if you guys want to take a screenshot, but these are the helpful tags that I like to start a new account with. Most of the policies that we're going to be working on today are just going to be using these workstation and server tags, but we'll also dip into some of these other ones as well. All right, so let's kick things off by creating the backbone of your monitoring setup, which is really the global policy. So I just go ahead and create one called global. And this is really where you're going to set all the things that are like all the common items that you want to monitor across all of your endpoints. You can kind of think of this as setting the ground rules for your health and performance of your devices. It's your own set of standards. So we'll start with the basics, maybe just a quick CPU monitor. We'll set this as a warning. So if the CPU usage is above 75% for, say, 30 minutes, we probably want to get an alert. Another cool thing here is if this condition is no longer being met, Level can automatically resolve that alert. Another note about these monitors, when this monitor fires, Level's going to automatically report the top 5 processes that are consuming the CPU at the time this alert was triggered or this monitor was triggered. So you really don't have to write a script just for to get that basic data. But if you wanted to run some type of automation or script to further investigate or remediate this issue, you could do that. Down here, you choose if you want to get an email notification about this when the alert's created, as well as when it's resolved. That might be too noisy for our CPU monitor, so I'll just turn that off. Okay, so we got our first monitor set up. Now let's jump in and let's do a memory monitor. Same thing, we're just going to look at memory usage. We'll actually do the same stat. So if it's at 75%, so 30 minutes, we'll have some type of alert be created here. And we'll automatically resolve that if the condition's no longer being met. Okay, so we've got 2 alerts down. Let's jump in and let's do this time a disk alert. So we'll select disk usage. We'll call this disk monitor. You'll see why I'm doing this just in a second. So I'm going to do warning. If any drive has less than 20% space, we'll fire an alert. And now this is really where we should start looking into remediation and fixing these issues automatically for you. So you'll notice that we have remediation scripts here, and you'll notice that these are going to be deprecated. So I could run some type of disk cleanup script, but you notice I have different scripts for Windows, Mac, and Linux here. So if I want to make this cross-platform, the best thing to do is to create an automation. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this disk alert. I'm going to jump over to automations. I'm going to create a new one, and we'll call this, let's say, cleanup disk space. Okay, so we have an automation here. I'm just going to select manual as the trigger, and we're going to run those scripts that I showed you before. So here I have one to clean up my Windows disk space. We'll add a conditional here, and we'll only run this on our Windows devices. And I'll give it a little name here. Okay, so we've got our Windows script. Let's do the same thing with our Mac disk space. Now, finally, we'll do the same thing with our Linux. By the way, all of these scripts are on our GitHub, but also as part of our service to customers, we'll write scripts for you as well. So you can reach out to support and we'll help you write scripts that you might need. All right. So now we have this automation. We could run devices manually through this, right? Like I could search for a device and we could add it here to this pipeline. But really, we want this to trigger automatically from our monitor. So we'll jump back over here to this disk monitor. And now we can run this cleanup disk space automation. And that's going to kind of help automatically remediate this issue. So now when this alert fires, we're going to try to fix it by running this automation. And if we're able to fix it, then the alert will automatically be resolved. Otherwise, it'll remain open and a tech can look into it. All right. Next, I like to have another disk monitor, but this time it's like a critical error if we hit this level. So I'll do, again, any drive, this time 10%. We'll do the same auto resolve and the same disk cleanup script. If we wanted, we could be more aggressive, trigger a different automation here. And for this, I think I would probably want to get a ticket or an email notification if it's lower than that threshold. All right. So next, another good security practice is monitoring the uptime of your endpoints, and just generally encouraging them to be rebooted at a reoccurring frequency so that you can make sure all of your updates are being applied. So I like to be really explicit with my names. So I'm going to say Windows uptime exceeds 30 days. I want an alert. So this is going to be a script-based monitor. And let's just do a warning here. We'll select the operating system as Windows, And for this, I have an OS query script. The neat thing about OS query is it's cross-platform. So it works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and we'll be able to use this same script for each operating system. So this script just outputs the number of days that a device has been up. So in this case, I want to say if the output is greater than 30 days, then I want an alert to be created. Now we need to decide what frequency we want to check this at. 1 minute, probably too frequent. We could probably get by with just checking this once a day. But if we wanted to be extra safe, we could do like every 12 hours or something. So every 12 hours, we'll check the uptime. And if the uptime is greater than 30 days, we're going to create an alert. If the user reboots their device or that condition's no longer being met, I want to automatically resolve this so that a tech doesn't have to invest their time. But it would be nice to run some type of remediation here. Again, we want to alleviate the manual lift of you guys having to do these tasks manually. So what we'll do, go ahead and add that monitor, and we'll jump over and create an automation for this. So I'm going to go app user to reboot. Do a manual here. And let's add a user approval action. And this is really neat. It lets us prompt the user with any type of question that we want. So in this case, it could just be your computer needs to be restarted to finish installing updates. Would you like to reboot now? So use some type of frequency, so like every 4 hours. And then do we want to force compliance, force them to finish running this automation after a certain number of delays? So maybe after 3. We'll just leave that alone. I think I'm just going to ask user to reboot. So that's what we're asking the question. And now we're going to restart the device. So I think this is pretty good. But just in case, I like to add just a few precautions. So I don't ever want a server to be rebooted or a server to be prompted. So I like to do an exclusion for that. So where the type is not equal to server, just to make sure that that doesn't happen. Same thing, we'll add a conditional here to make sure that we don't prompt on servers. All right, so now we have that automation. We hop back over to that monitor role. We can now run that automation. So now, if the uptime is greater than 30 days, Level's going to trigger this automation, and we'll just prompt the user to reboot their device. And we'll continue to prompt them until that action is eventually taken. So no manual interaction on your part, no need to get emails for that. And the cool thing is, even if the device is offline, it'll just queue up on that automation until the device comes back online. So now if we look at that automation, we can see that remediation automation is one of the triggers, one of the things that could run this pipeline. Okay. So we have that rule for Windows. Probably want to do something very similar for Mac. So I'm going to just copy this name here. Say macOS uptime exceeds 30 days. Do another warning. We'll select Mac as the operating system, that same OS query script. And the uptime is greater than 30 days. I think I checked every 12 hours. Auto resolve, ask user to reboot. There we go. So now we have that rule for Windows and Mac. Let's do one more time for Linux. All right. Perfect. So checking the uptime is a great way to keep those devices performing well. Another thing that you could check is if the operating system itself detects that a reboot is necessary. So if Windows or Mac thinks that an update is needed, you can also check for that. So if we wanted to do that, we could say Windows reboots required. And of course, you can check with a script. And in this case, if the output contains alert, I just happen to know how this script is configured, then we'll create this alert. And again, we can just ask the user to reboot. No need to do anything else. I won't bore you with doing that again for Mac and Linux, but same thing you could do there. So over here, this is where you would choose if for these alerts that we chose to get emails for, which I think was critical disk usage, and I think that was it. I don't think I turned alerts on for anything else. You would configure those emails here. So you might want this to go to like IT at your company or even your ticketing system. So you might have like it.level@inbound.alertops.com. So that's just as an example, if you have like AlertOps or Jira as your ticketing system, you can just put that as a recipient right there. This being our global policy, we want to target all workstations and all servers. And now we have this configured. Again, you can see no devices yet. We haven't tagged those devices. But at this point, we have a good base foundation. And we could continue adding any other monitors that made sense on a global basis. So now let's step back. And one of the tips that I have is don't forget to monitor security. Security is a big deal. And what I like to do is create a dedicated policy just to focus on security and keeping our system safe and secure. So I'll give you some examples of policies that I would create here. So we'll just kind of dive in. So I like to monitor the Windows Security Center. Of course, our security score monitors this, but you can also monitor it. And so if you want, we could say this will be a script-based monitor. Again, I have a script that tests this. And if the output contains alert, I know it's not in a healthy state. And I would check this probably every 8 to 12 hours. You choose what frequency makes sense. You could even check it every hour if you wanted. It's a pretty quick script in terms of performance. Decide if you want to run any type of remediation. You could try to fix the firewall, reinstall the AV. There's a lot of things that you could do from a remediation standpoint that you might want to consider. But I definitely want to get some type of alert and some type of email if the security system isn't in a healthy state. Okay. Next would be monitoring the individual components, whether that's the Windows firewall or the Windows AV or your own AV provider. I would definitely have some type of script that checks the firewall and the AV of whatever solution you're using. And again, maybe you want to check that more frequently. And again, you could run some type of automation, reinstall the AV, reinstall the firewall if there is an issue. Another thing that you might want to monitor would be DNS. So again, if you have certain DNS servers that you would expect on your endpoints, like you're doing DNS filtering on your devices, you probably want to ensure that the DNS servers are what you would expect. So again, I can set up these very quickly. And these scripts, like I said, they're all on our GitHub, very easy to customize. And I'll actually jump in and I'll show you what one of these looks like. Again, do you want to automatically try to remediate this? You could easily change the DNS servers back to what you would expect. So jumping over to this automation, I just want to show you what some of these scripts look like. So if we pull up the DNS server script, you can see this comes directly from our GitHub. And we just have an array of allowed DNS servers. And you can update that and change that however you would like for each of your clients. Okay, jumping back over here. So we talked about some of the security things. You could go to extremes here, right? You could monitor all of the admins on a device or even all of the users on a device. It really is up to you what you want to monitor. So here's an example of that. And maybe we'll check this every hour as well. And again, we could run a remediation to fix this. If we wanted to just delete a user or disable a user until a tech could investigate, we could do that. Some of our more security conscious clients are even monitoring every service on a device or all of the non-admin users as well as the admin users. On Linux devices, you might want to monitor the sudo users or the SSH keys that are present on the device. So just some examples of all the different things that you could monitor. And again, I would just continue building out this policy. So If I want to monitor the Mac OS firewall, again, we have a script for that. No big deal. Jump over Mac OS, check firewall. If the output contains alert, then we'll create an alert. We're going to do this once an hour. And we also have remediations for fixing the Mac firewall. If we just want to enable it, put it back in stealth mode, we can do that. So again, we could do these same steps for Windows, Mac, Linux, checking DNS servers, users, firewall, AV, health, and so on. Again, probably want to set up what email addresses we want to receive alerts about security instances. Maybe you have a dedicated team for that. And so you could loop them into those issues. Being this is targeting our security policy, we want this, again, to apply to all devices, Windows, Mac, Linux, desktop servers, everything. So a good security policy would be built out further here. We would have other policies for Linux and Mac. Again, we have the scripts for all this. I just don't want to bore you with creating the policies over and over and over again. But those are the kinds of things that you want to monitor. At the end of this, we'll share a list of all of the things that I generally recommend having in our global policy, our security policy, and all of our other policies. We'll share that with you in our post-call notes so that you can kind of have that as a foundation for building out your own policies. Okay, so we have this security policy. We're actively monitoring the AV, the firewall, making sure everything's in a healthy state. Security is not an afterthought. So next, we really need to think about like the nuances between servers and workstations, and let's create some policies tailored to just that. So here we go. Jump in. We're going to create a policy for servers, and we'll target with this just the server devices. So over here, one big difference with servers that you wouldn't want to do with your desktops and laptops is you probably want to monitor whether the device is online or not. So throw a connection monitor on this. It's an emergency. If the device is offline for 1 minute, once the device comes back online, we want to automatically resolve that issue. But I want emails, I want alarms going off. It's critical if a server is down. We have a dedicated team for that, so we can loop them in to those messages as well. Some other things that we might want to check are backups. So let's say check backups. And we have a script for this. Whatever backup provider you're using, you can write a script to check are backups happening. If they're not, then we want to know there's some type of issue. So we'll check that every hour and resolve. We could, as part of a remediation, trigger a backup. I mentioned that over and over again because it's better if you can just automate the handling of these problems. So likely whatever backup solution you're using, you can trigger a scan remotely. Something else on servers that you might want to monitor is the system time, especially if it's like a database server. That's really important. So you can have a script to monitor that very easily. And just a couple clicks. All of these scripts pretty soon will be in all of our new accounts by default. Like I said, right now they're on our GitHub. Additionally, we can seed them in your account if you want to just be able to jump on and have a bunch of really nice scripts. We've kind of organized them pretty well over here. So we have monitors for Windows, Mac, Linux, and OS query. We have security focused things that we're looking for. We have some maintenance scripts that can do disk cleanup or remove the bloat on a device, that kind of stuff. Cool. So now we have some server rules that are unique to just our servers. We could do the same thing for workstations here. Like if we wanted to monitor like disk performance, or even do like smart disk checking, right? So if we think the disk drive is about to fail, we could check the smart disk status or check for disk errors. And if there's an error or some type of issue, then we can know about that in advance and hopefully fix it before the user notices that there's an issue. So again, in this case, we'll target just workstations. We'll loop in our ticketing system so we can get ticket about that. Anything else for workstations, we would just be able to loop them in right there. So we've covered all these generic policies, but for specific applications like Nginx or Exchange, it's helpful to create dedicated policies just for them. This way you can zero in on the services that matter most. So just a couple examples of this. We'll do an Exchange policy here. Monitor the Exchange service. So in Level, we have a built-in monitor for this. So we'll use the service type. This will be critical. If Nginx service is stopped for 1 minute, then I want Level to automatically try to start that service. And if it's able to do that, I want it to resolve the alert. We could also fire off an automation if we would rather start it in a certain order ourselves. And I want to get emails about that. That's serious. And we probably want to loop in server team here. And for this, we don't want this to apply to all devices. So this is a great example of creating a dedicated tag for Nginx so that we can target just our Nginx devices with this policy. Similarly, we might do something with Exchange, right? So in this case, Exchange has a few services that you might want to monitor. And if there's any issue with it, then there's a problem. So like MS Exchange transport, if that's stopped for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, then you want us to try to automatically start it. And if we're able to do that, resolve it. Okay. We need alerts on that. I won't bore you with adding a bunch more here, but you get the point. Again, we would add an Exchange tag here. And after that, we want to loop in our server team if something's wrong with Exchange. I will add just one more monitor so that I can show you how this kind of stacks at the end. So it's another service. All right, and this is MS Exchange IS. And if it's stopped, again, I think 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes would make more sense there. Okay. So now we have 2 services attached to this one Exchange monitor. Just one more quick example of like a niche policy that you might want. Let's do a USB one. USB drive. So in this case, I want an alert if a USB drive is plugged into a certain device, like maybe it's high security. So we'll check this every minute. And I don't know, probably don't want to auto resolve in this case because it's a high security device. So I'll do that for Windows and I'll do it for Mac now, but we have this script for all operating systems. So you could use it for any of them. Right. Oh, no, we don't want to auto resolve in this case. All right. So we've added that. Again, we'll need a dedicated tag for this. I don't think I have a USB tag. No. All right. So let's create one. Cool. And then let's loop in our security team for this issue. Cool. So now we have some unique policies that we can apply on top of these other devices. In general, my advice here for these niche policies would be identify what's unique about this situation and then create a policy specific for monitoring that application or that service or that network device, whatever you want there. All right, so let's go through. And right now, if we pull up these devices here, we still don't show any monitors yet. That makes sense because this device doesn't have any policies or tags attached to it. So in Level, we have this default tags policy, and this runs when a new device is created, and it will apply some tags for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that automation so that these devices get some tags. So really neat. We see the devices queue up in real time, and we'll see them run through and conditionally applying tags based on the type of device that they are. We're immediately seeing alerts come in real time, which is awesome. If we pull up one of these devices, like this Windows 10 device, we go to policies, we can now see, because this device has the tag of a workstation, it's inherited a global policy, a security policy, a workstations monitoring policy. If we go to this monitor section, we can see all of these rules are stacking in place on this device. We have these global things that we're looking at. We have these niche security things that we're focusing on, and it's just showing the Windows rules in this case. Since this is a Windows device, we look at our Macs, we can see very similarly. I didn't spend as much time creating out security rules for Mac and Linux, but we can see that one rule come in. If we pick a few of these devices like this one, let's tag this one with Nginx as though it is an Nginx server. Let's tag this as an Exchange server. And I created a tag for that. Oh yeah, there it is. All right. So again, if I jump over here, we see from a monitor standpoint, I have a global policy, I have security rules that we're monitoring, and then because it has this Exchange tag, it has these additional monitors that are applied to it. We can see that it's currently failing because see, yeah, a reboot is required for this device. If we jump back over to this Nginx device, we pull up the monitors for that. We can see that global policy, the Nginx policy coming from just that Nginx tag, and then the server rules, things that we're checking like connection and backups and system time and that kind of stuff. And we can see it's spelling the system time here. And I think we could have actually ran a remediation to fix that. I think I have a script for that in this library, but we didn't. So just kind of wrapping up, some of the key things that I think you should take away from this: start by building your foundation, create standards that you want to apply to all of your endpoints, and then focus on monitoring those standards through your policies. I find it personally easier to start with that global and that security policy and build out those first before you start creating specialized policies for specific applications or your servers or your workstations. Um, Try to be as proactive as you can. If you run into an issue, you should start monitoring that moving forward. If you have a hard drive failure, you should start monitoring your hard disk health. If you have a reoccurring alert that continues to come back up, you should build some type of automation to solve that problem for you, to avoid having to put in any hours fixing the issue. And then finally, my last piece of advice here would be to leverage our support team. Take advantage of us. We'll help you write scripts, we'll help you create policies, and we'll help you build automations, all as part of your subscription with Level. So thanks for sticking with me through all of that. I'm going to turn it over to Derek and Jason for Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. Appreciate that. First question, can everybody hear me okay, first of all? I good to go?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So an anonymous user asked, RMMs have scripting capabilities, although not as heavy as ours appears to be. He says he's more often than not, the scripts don't execute when executed from the RMM console. Scripts work fine, just doesn't work well when initiated from the RMM console. How is Level's solution different or better than others in terms of executing scripts?
Yes, that's a great question. I think, and honestly, it's just the real-time nature of Level. And everything in our platform is built around executing these scripts. We have script-based monitors; those run in real time. We saw alerts coming in as I was leaving there, and yeah, I think you should just sign up and try it out. I think you'll be surprised.
Cool. Thank you very much. Um, Next question we have, do you have a network discovery tool to install on any device if the credentials work and the device is seen?
Yeah, we don't have that yet. It's on our roadmap. It's something that hopefully we'll be able to add in the future.
All right, next question. Can you lock down the system tray icon to not allow the user to remove it?
Level doesn't have a system tray icon, so there's nothing there. We do show a notice whenever you connect from a remote control section or like connection, but other than that, that there's no taskbar icon or anything.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Here's another one. How would you stop that monitor? This was going back to the exchange transport issue. So how would you stop that monitor if you need to further troubleshoot an exchange transport issue per the example?
Yeah, great question. Um, Biggest tip for this, let me share my screen one more time, sorry. But this is a really relevant question and it's bitten me a few times, so I can see why you would ask this. Um, so I'll just kind of illustrate the problem here. We have this automatically start the service, but if you're working on this device, it can get in the way if Level's consistently trying to start that service for you. So the big suggestion here is to put the device into maintenance mode. Whenever a device is in maintenance mode, the monitors are paused on that device because we know you're working on it. So we won't do any type of remediation, like just trying to start these services or stop these services. Um, yeah, does that make sense?
Right. A lot of questions coming in. All right. Let me keep reading through your scripts. How do we deploy Mac agents remotely along with the permissions required? This is more of a deployment question. How do you do the mobile configure files? Um, how do the mobile config files be added to the installation? We have the option to send the files to the remote machine, but not sure how to point the mobile config to the installer.
Great question. So the mobile configs are really there for people that have an MDM provider. So the MDM is able to not only push those policies to the device, but they're able to execute them with the proper permissions. My understanding is once your MDM does that and those profiles are installed, then Level can be, the permissions will be granted automatically to Level. But it does require some type of MDM currently to use those mobile configs.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Next question. Is the endpoint software a heavy load? Also, how does it behave with strict antivirus policies? Would only one exception need to be created within the antivirus, or will it need multiple?
Yeah, great question. So the agent is takes up very minimal resources, both from a CPU and memory disk space usage standpoint. Um, I guess the most notable usage currently is when a remote control session is active. We tend to use more resources currently, but we have a new encoder coming that will drastically reduce that usage. Then in regard to AV EDR, um, generally we Level plays well with these solutions, but we recommend, we have some articles on our website. We recommend whitelisting or manually allowing, excluding Level from your AV or EDR just to prevent it from potentially blocking your remote management actions.
Thank you, Jacob. Another question. He says he believes this was a feature incoming a while ago, but will we be able to queue scripts to run when a device comes back online if initiated when offline? Currently, scripts run even when offline and eventually timeout.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that currently. So the recommended path is automation. So automations will queue a device up at that step if it's offline, and they'll wait until the device comes back online. That's the advantage of using automations to run your scripts instead of running them through the job side of things, which is slowly going to be deprecated out.
All right, here's another question. Will the level agent be patched in the background automatically? If yes, how often do you patch it?
Um, the level agent itself does automatically update, and it updates when releases happen. We do like a rolling update to um, some users first to make sure things are stable before we roll out to everyone else. So can't give like an exact answer to that, but updates happen after they're stable um, within a couple hours.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. I think that's all the questions for now, at least all the questions that I'm seeing. I did want to touch on, well, first of all, I know a lot of you are here for the lunch gift card. I saw some questions floating around in the chat around the gift card. I am going to try to get those gift cards out to you by lunch today. So, yeah, you can use it as soon as possible. And for the extended trial, Jacob, would you mind covering the extended trial for webinar attendees?
Sure. Yeah, we'll give any webinar attendee the rest of the year to try level out free.
Awesome. That's awesome. Perfect. And yeah, after that, extended trial, um, level is $2 per endpoint per month. That is all inclusive to onboarding, ongoing support. The entire level, I guess, package and suite is totally available with that $2 endpoint pricing. So um, I think that is wraps it up. We got about 2 minutes left. Are there any other questions? Feel free to drop those in the chat if you have them. So I'm seeing will is it free to sign up? Yes. Yes, it's free to sign up. Um, dark mode coming? Jacob, what's the status on dark mode?
I just added it to my wish list. So maybe it'll come in a surprise update.
Cool, cool.
There was a there was another question about custom fields for automations like license keys and app installs. And I can address that. I know we're actively working on custom fields and right now, and so we're it's in development currently. Plan is and just maybe a shout out to IT Nation. We'll be at IT Nation this year, and so our plan is to have it before IT Nation. And so if you're going to IT Nation, come visit us at our booth, and we'll show it to you.
Yeah, we're pretty excited for IT Nation. If you don't have tickets to IT Nation, it's in Orlando. Definitely look into it. It's going to be a really sweet event. I think they got like, for some reason, they have Tony Hawk speak, and I think the Stone Temple Pilots are performing on the last night, Universal Studios, and then of course there's going to be a ton of vendors and great keynote speakers speaking. So yeah, and you can get to hang out with us. So any other questions? Love the Hoodoo integration. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, we got 1 minute left. I think we're good to go. I'll wait for any last minute questions. So is there a way to flag a device that triggers a monitor and put it into the flag devices group? Furthermore, is there a way to launch just that flag devices page on startup? Idea being to use it as a monitor page.
Flagging a device is one of the actions that we're hoping to add to automations really soon. So hopefully very soon that will be possible.
Is there a chat with remote user option in the roadmap? That would be a great add-on for remote control.
It's on the roadmap. Yep.
Cool.
I would say any other questions that you may have, feel free to send them in to support, and we're happy to answer those offline. And yeah, let us know. We're excited for the future of Level and the progression that we're making, and you all as the community kind of help us lead and drive that. And so we'd love to hear your feedback. So send it in.
Perfect. Awesome. And if anybody would like to, I guess, see some of like the remote control features and some of the other features of the platform, definitely reach out to Jacob, Jason, or myself. We'll happily get a demo set up and we can walk you through the rest of the platform. So thank you guys all so much for being here. This was awesome. This was Level's first webinar. I think our attendee count was over 400. It got up to 450 at one point. So this is like really, really cool for us. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, we look forward to getting in touch with you all.
Thanks, guys.